Welcome back, everybody. In this episode, I will be installing the new wood stove into the shed. I'm doing this because, for one, I want to give the shed some heat, and I also want to do some maple sugaring in the spring back there. So I wanted to have a wood stove in that shed to be able to do that. So in order to break in the new wood stove, you have to do a series of break-in fires. So basically, you want to do 3 fires, 2 at around 250 degrees Fahrenheit and 1 at around 500 degrees Fahrenheit, in order to make sure that the high temperature paint that's in the stove gets cured and any of the off-gassing and bad smells are done during this period. That way, when you install the wood stove in your house, shed, wherever it's going, you don't have any bad funky smells the first couple times you're burning it. For the hearth build, I did the walls behind it the same as I did for the rest of the pole shed. So I used the Roxol rock wool fire resistant insulation, and then I put a vapor barrier on top of it. I decided to go with the Wonderboard Light concrete board as the surface of the hearth behind the stove and on the bottom of the stove. That's in order to make it more fire resistant. And we also, as you'll see later in this video, want to install some rocks as the hearth. So the concrete board is perfect as a base to install any sort of masonry rock stones to the actual board as your hearth. The Wonderboard Light or any concrete board is actually pretty easy to install. You just have to buy specific screws to install it that help drill into the concrete so that they sink into it instead of just sitting on top of it. So you want to make sure you get those screws specifically. The board breaks really easy. So if you mark a chalk line or a line and just score it with a utility knife, you can just put some pressure on it and it'll crack in half really easily. And then you just score the back to break it off. works. For the hearth pad, we kept with the theme of this whole build of using as much as we could from the land. So we collected field stones from around the property. We have some old rock walls and some old crumbled rock walls. So it was pretty easy to collect a good amount of flat, good field stones to use for this particular purpose. So after we collected all the field stones and washed them, we did a practice layout on the pad of how we basically wanted to arrange everything, and then we took it off, mirrored it next to it on the ground, and then we bought 3 bags of type N mortar mix from Home Depot. They're about $9 a bag, and that was enough to do the entire hearth. So my wife Christine made up the mortar mix and laid it down and just slowly, meticulously put each of the rocks where we wanted them to land, making sure that where the 4 feet of the wood stove itself would go had a good, nice, flat rock under each of those to make it level. And then we just let it dry for a few days, and that was it. I'm gonna measure the whole thing out, but I'll make a line on the ground and then we can measure. The plan is to also use mortar mix to install field stone on the back walls where the wonderboard is, but we weren't able to collect enough field stone this year before temperatures dropped below freezing and the ground froze. So we'll pick that back up in the spring. I also commissioned a good buddy of mine who you've seen a couple of these videos before to make a copper heat shield to put behind the stove too. So the final install here will be the rocks up the wall and a copper heat shield. The actual stove install itself I'm not going to be recording because it has to be done per code, and there's different codes in different areas depending on where you live, and I'm absolutely not the expert on this, so I don't want to give anyone any advice on how they should do it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Feel free to give the video a like or subscribe to my channel if you like the content that I'm putting out. It's much, much appreciated. Take care, everybody. Cheers.